We're here with Florida coach Billy Napier, and Billy, this has been going around here. This photo, and I have to ask you this: what does this person do for a living?
You know, I've been text that for a long time, and I've been saying, WWE, here we come.
Okay, so I thought Sarkisian looked more WWE than you, but I will tell you, so your college roommate, top receiver, noted worldwide renowned recording artist Bear Reinhardt is here with you today. I asked him, he said he looks like a roofer. I did just get a new roof put on my house. Yeah. That didn't look like anybody put the roof on my house. But Sam Pittman, the Arkansas coach, had the best answer. He said, Billy looks like Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Football Jesus. That's been one of those things.
There you go. Well, I think I sent some T-shirts. Your NIL will blow up with that.
Appreciate that.
So it's a year of changes, but it's interesting because we had Eli Drinkwitz in this chair a couple days ago, and he was explaining why he's given up play calling and all this other stuff going on. He's a Gus Malzahn guy. Gus, same thing. Yeah. And you got asked about it today because you're not doing that. And I was thinking about this. You're a guy who grew up with a high school coach for a dad,
right,
wanting to be a high school coach. You now run this massive organization with all these analysts, and you have people who make graphics for you. And so, is this a way to stay in touch with the actual football for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's as close as I can get to playing the game. Yeah. You know, I've answered this question a million times. You know, a lot of coaches that come to work for you, they want to know. Right?
Oh yeah.
For their future career, but you know, I really believe that it's a way to keep your hand on the identity of your team.
Yeah.
You know, conceptually, the practice environment, the commitment to playing complementary football, understanding not only what you're installing, but what is the defense installing, and then watching each play and evaluating each play relative to that. And then, you know, once you get to the season and game week, what you do between Sunday to Saturday prepares you to call the game.
Now, I went back and I was looking at Louisiana year 1 to year 2. You had quite a jump between those first 2 years. What did you see from that team in between those 2 years? What's the hallmark of a team about to make a jump?
Well, I think there's a compound effect of year 2, right? The analogy I use is like, not only is the student learning the material for the second time, all the teachers are teaching the material for the second time.
Right.
They understand what's expected, and they're better at their job. I think there's a trickle down to the players. We're seeing it recruiting right now.
Yeah.
We're year 2, we're having more success, and I think that I'm hopeful that will carry over to the football component as well.
Well, I was going to say that message seems to be getting out. I know you can't talk about anybody specifically who's committed, but you look at the finalists of the guys who are committing to you, and it's a pretty different class of school than it was before. How do you sell that to them when the first season was not exactly what you wanted it to be?
Well, I think kids are smart. I think that ultimately young people, they go through their own recruiting process. They go visit these other institutions. They see the place. They see the resources. They understand the degree, the alumni network, the experiences that we can create through GatorMade. Equipping them, educating them, and then our football plan is proven, it works, right? So I think we've got a unique combination of things that we offer. We've completely rebuilt the player experience. Our administration has been phenomenal.
Yeah, I got to talk to you about that. So I was with James Bates the other day. He was a captain on the 96 national championship team, and we were talking about the stools that used to be in the locker room, and they were about 2 feet off the ground. That was the seat.
No doubt.
And if you wanted to sleep in front of your locker, you could sleep on the floor. And what your players have right now, I would have never left.
Yeah.
I would just live in there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's affecting our team dynamic. They spend more time in the building, therefore they spend more time together. There's not only more efficiency, better resources, a modernization of approach with our infrastructure, but they're just flat out, they're spending more time together, and I think that's going to benefit us.
Yeah, and you've got some guys, a bunch of new guys through the portal. You talked about it in the big room here. A lot of experience coming in. And Graham Mertz from Wisconsin, the quarterback, very experienced. How important was that getting guys that have just played a lot of snaps?
You know, I think we evaluate each one of these guys kind of independent of themselves relative to our roster, what we need.
Right.
Do we need a young, talented player that has a number of years of eligibility, or we need immediate impact?
Right.
And I think we've added some really unique players. I mean, you dig into PFF and production and, you know, these guys' backgrounds. I'm excited. I think Bird Sherrill did great work. He's a director of college personnel, and our staff did a good job closing that out.
Well, and then you got Mr. Moten from Michigan just recently. I've heard good things in town about Caleb Banks from Louisville and Cam Jackson from Memphis. How much different will the D-line look with some new blood? Yeah,
I mean, immediately when they walk in the room, the height length is different. You know, we're talking 6'6", 350, 6'5 and 3/4, 320.
Yeah.
Real athletes, I think NFL players. So not a lot of people are talking about them right now, and I'm okay with that.
I was wondering about that because
it'll become pretty apparent.
People are assuming Gervon Dexter got drafted. We don't necessarily know the younger guys, so nobody's talking about. But yes, I would think if that unit gets better, that changes things quite a bit for you guys.
Yeah, no question. I mean, any good defense is going to be strong up the middle. And these guys bring presence right away to go along with some other really good pieces.
Yeah. Now, in the pass game, I'm curious, how much can the run game help the pass game? Because obviously those backs, Montrell and Trevor, are one of the strengths of this roster. But how much can the play action game kind of open things up?
Well, I think the rush, when you can rush the ball, I think you force the defense's hand a little bit. The throw game can become simpler. You create more individual matchups, more vertical seams. When they can play split safety and start doubling players, then you got some problems, right? So ultimately, we've got a great system that distributes the ball depending on how the defense aligns, and we need Graham to make great decisions. We're going to feature these backs. We're going to feature Ricky Pearsall, and we're going to evaluate the other group of skill players that we have, and we'll get the ball to the playmakers.
So somebody was telling me that you have notebooks in your office where you basically go by day, and that sometimes you will grab one from a year ago or a couple years ago and go to that day and go through it. What does that do for you?
Yeah, I mean, it just creates consistency, and then you minimize error, right? I mean, I think half the battle here is just don't make the same mistake twice. Right?
Yeah.
So it's one of the ways that we improve our process, quality control everything that we do right then. There's a ton of research behind this, and then you go back to that.
Yeah.
And then you prepare when you kind of encounter that next time of the year. So over time, it adds up, and all parts of the organization, we challenge them to take the same approach.
So did you open up the notebook from last year's media day to figure out what the speech was going to be in the
last 2 years, you know? So, no question. I mean, I'm trying to get better, right? And I think ultimately you got to learn from the past.
You don't have to learn from it with us. That's the thing. We just need you coming in off the cuff saying ridiculous things. We'll make fun of you for it for a month, and then the games will happen, and we'll just form our own judgments off of that.
No doubt.
It's much easier that way. But really, what have you learned in a year in charge at Florida?
Well, I think that it's very evident that there's a lot of things that needed to be done here.
Yeah.
I think we all understood. It's like giving a year of your life away. I mean, the first year your time is so divided. And I think that a couple of the new variables cause that to be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
You're immediately a class and a half behind in recruiting.
Right.
I think for me that was magnified a little bit because we weren't recruiting that pool of players.
Right.
We were at Louisiana. Then you throw in NIL, you throw in the portal, not to mention all the things that needed to be done at the University of Florida. So ultimately your time is divided.
Yeah.
I left a place where I felt like I had an incredible connection with my team, with my staff.
Yeah.
And then you take that for granted a little bit. So it's pretty apparent, hey, look, we got to start over here.
Well, and you mentioned this before where you talked about you got to a new school at a time when everything was changing, and there's no instruction manual for it. So the NIL thing, I know this spring you were talking to groups, and they're setting up the Florida Victorious Collective, and you were going to people and saying, hey, this is how you have to recruit now. This has to be good here. How hard are those conversations with some folks who maybe aren't into giving to NIL?
Well, I think it's all about education, and I think Florida Victorious has done a really good job of doing NIL in a very strategic manner. The service-oriented work with the financial literacy component, I think we're going out of our way to do what college athletics should do, shape the character of the player, and also prepare them for their future from a financial perspective. So we got great leadership in that organization. They've hired people from within the athletic department, from the university side. I think there's good alignment there, and the state law has benefited us.
Right.
And I think going forward, Florida's positioned for that to be a really strong, sustainable, repeatable kind of product that we can all be proud of.
I know when you were dreaming of becoming a football coach, you thought you were going to have to talk about state laws and state legislatures. No.
It's reality.
How much of it, because you're a younger coach, and it seems like the dividing line is among the age groups and the coaches, where it seems like guys your age are like, well, whatever they tell us, we're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about, you want to do the best job you can do for your people, right? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, my career kind of reflects the involvement of the revenue, and the explosion, right? So I've seen it when it was bare bones operation to where we're at today. And I think it would be foolish to think that the players don't deserve some of this revenue that this game is creating.
I still haven't met a college head coach who actually thought they'd make any money when they got into the field.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can remember taking the job at Clemson, telling my dad, like, Dad, this is about the same amount of money that a good Georgia high school job would make. I think I'm going to give it a try.
Did he tell you were crazy, or was he saying go for it?
He was good, yeah. He's like, hey, you believe in it? Let's go.
And here you are now trying to deal with all the changes and hang on for dear life. Billy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate the opportunity.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.